Welcome to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. Tonight is going to be me and Jeremiah, and we're going to be talking about Giants and their future and the NFL standings right now. So let's get started.
Welcome to Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports talk show in the country. And now, here's your host, Jasmine Pollock.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. I want to start the night up by talking about the New York Giants. Now, I chose this topic because my mom is a Giants fan and she recommended that I talk about this. So we're going to talk about this. So Jeremiah, we saw the reports early this week that they are bringing back Daniel Jones and their head coach, even though they're not haven't been a winning team for a very long time. What do you think about these moves?
I think at the end of the day, they need to know what they're going to get from Daniel Jones at the end of the day. So right now for the New York Giants, it's all about them finding identity for themselves. Mostly after Eli left and everything else, they was back to the square one when it came to the whole notebook. Now you have Saquon coming in and out when it comes to everything. So he's your star player, but you can't always rely on him all the time because he can do so much. Now, when it comes to the quarterback, that is your main point guard of the whole team, your main quarterbacks. And of course you have your head coach. Those two things you always need in check for your team to have his own identity. So finding those two things, actually finishing out the rest of this year and everything else that's like that, it will kind of give them a clear mind of, do we want to go further with Daniel Jones and with the coach, or are we solidified seeing the rest of this season play out? Because I know they're not making the playoffs, but do you see, a good future with these two guys just, leading the front for your whole organization, for your whole team?
It's all about, to me, when it comes to them keeping Daniel Jones and Joe Judge, I think it has a lot to do with them having loyalty to those guys. When I look at Daniel Jones, I know a lot of people are hard on him because, I've seen spurts of goodness, and of course I've seen a lot of bad things. And I feel like when they first drafted him, I did not think I thought that was really strange because I believe they had they were in the top 10 in the draft, and they had all their other great quarterbacks there that could have been drafted, and you chose Daniel Jones, the first QB, to go off it was really ridiculous to me. Yep. So I was really shocked about that. And of course my mom was upset about it. She was not happy about that. And then the coach, I have not seen anything. And don't get me wrong, the Giants have talent. They have a lot of talented players.
Oh, great talent, a lot.
Kadarius Toney. But I'm not impressed with the direction that this team is heading. I do think they need to clean house. They need to get rid of their owner because he's been making very weird decisions. And those New York fans are really sick and tired of hearing that. And this team not too long ago, with Eli Manning winning Super Bowls, this is what this team was not too long ago. So, I mean, it's really disappointing to see what this team is becoming because they have a lot of talent on their team. So I really want to know what's going to happen, especially in division where you have Dallas getting stronger. Dallas is getting a lot more talented. The Eagles are on a little upcline, I believe, upcline. And I feel like the Giants, there needs to be a change. I mean, I don't understand what's going on, Jeremiah. I feel like this team, like I said, has a lot of talent, but I feel like they do I don't think Daniel Jones is that guy. I don't think their coach is that guy at all. There's a lot of good quarterbacks out there that you can go get that, could put you that can compete with a Dak Prescott.
Yeah, because Jasmine, I felt like in the past, even in this last draft, they could have picked up a quarterback then to even, because although you have Daniel Jones, you still need that competitive aspect for them to bring out the player that you need out of him. If he feels so safe and also secured in one spot, that's how your team is going to be, just in one spot. You see how the Eagles are, just like you said, getting better. The Washington football team, they have these certain groups, they're kind of building their stature to actually get to a bigger level, while the Giants, they're staying in one place or just taking steps back. When, these fans, you already know New York fans, they care a lot about the Giants and they want them to go to a bigger stand. So just like you said, I have to agree with you when it comes to the owner needs to step in and make big moves, because a lot of these fans and everybody else, they are not happy when it comes to this organization right now.
I don't think he needs to make big moves. I think he needs to leave. He has not made any good decisions for the past couple of years now. Yeah, they got good draft picks. Like I said, Kadarius Toney from the Gators. I don't think they needed him, but it was a good pickup. He adds a certain dynamic to the offense. But far as their O-line, they have not stacked up the O-line like they should. Defensively, they have pieces, but the direction of the team is going in the right way. And I know Daniel Jones was put in a weird situation. He was put in a weird situation. I don't think he expected to get drafted at that point in time. Like, wow, I'm the first quarterback off. When there's a bunch of other guys that are at bigger schools have done a lot more. I've never even heard of Daniel Jones until the Giants drafted him. So I was really shocked about that. But for the Giants, it's very disappointing, because I'll go back to say my first ever football game is when the Giants and the Patriots played the Super Bowl the second time, and that was my first ever game ever watching football. So it was really interesting to see that, and I know my mom is a big Giants fan, and it's very disappointing to her that she saw what that team was, beating Tom Brady with Eli twice, and then becoming what it became. And even when Eli was there, you started to see a decline anyway, and he got out of there just in the nick of time. But they need a whole new system in place, and I feel like their coach is not giving them that system, their owner is not giving them that system, I think, and their general manager also. I just feel like it's a lot going on that needs to be fixed. New York is a big city. Obviously, there's a huge town it's a huge sports town. You look at Buffalo, you look at the Knicks, you look at Brooklyn, you look at all these teams that are up there, and you can't, just have, okay, we're just here, New York every year. Those fans are tired of it. But it's really unfortunate. And even in a division like the NFC least that some people say, when you look at Dallas, how stacked Dallas is, of course, Jerry Jones is going to get pieces. He's going to get all the pieces that they need to compete for it or contend for a Super Bowl. But when you look at Philly made the right moves by, we need to go get a quarterback.
Oh, definitely. You see them. They're in the mix. It's three of them. They're in the mix.
They're in the mix. Even, drafting Devontae Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner from Alabama, the receiver. And they're starting to come on very slowly. And, of course, you can always add people. And I think the Eagles are going to be that team in the NFC East that can challenge Dallas. Washington, and Taylor Heineke, I don't really trust them. There's spurts here. It's kind of the same thing. But I feel like the Giants are going to end up last place in the division. Just like
last year. They was in the same spot again. They're continuing this whole tradition, because just like I said, when it comes to the fans and when it comes to those players there, they don't want to go off of just reminiscing of who came before. You want to continue. This is a whole organization full of certain legends that came through. So you have to make more legends right now for there to be a future. Because right now, if you just keep going back and looking back again, like what kind of team are you going to have? You're just going to be that bottom barrel like the Jets.
Yeah, I agree. And even with them, they're trying to make a run for certain picks as well. I mean, they got better picks I've seen than, the Giants. To me, like, they're actually going out there and trying to make new hires. They hired the 49ers a defensive coach. So, I mean, the Jets are actually trying to compete and trying to change their culture in that team. Giants are just staying the same. But that wraps up this segment. We're going to head into a break right now, and then we'll come back talking about more NFL talk. We'll be right back.
Slow roasted over hickory fire and pulled by hand. This is the way pit pork has always been done. Pulled pork lovers, rejoice. The smoky old days are back at the Smoke Shack. From the creative team that brought you the Browning Project and Dead by Morning comes a new thriller that will change the way you look at white-collar crime forever. Falling from the Sky.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. To wrap up the night, we're going to talk more NFL and the NFL standings. So, Jeremiah, as we speak, the Miami Dolphins are playing. They're trying to compete and trying to get into a wild card. They're
Yes.
red hot since, their bye week. And what do you think about the Dolphins? Can they make a run? Can they compete? And can they be a legitimate threat to Kansas City, to Buffalo Bills, to all these teams that are the top seeds right now?
Now, I love my team when it comes to the Miami Dolphins and everything else. I'm a diehard, especially since young all the way to now. But when it comes to the Miami Dolphins, I have them making the playoffs, ending of this season. We have, after this game, if we can win against the Saints, we can be there in that 7th spot. We can make it, right there in that wild card. But then we have to keep winning out against Tennessee, and then last game against the Patriots. Of course, tough games, but we can do it. Now, would I say that we can beat certain teams when it comes to like Buffalo and the other teams that's kind of up there? I would give us maybe a 20%, but I'm not saying a whole over 50%, because at the end of the day, when it comes to the Miami Dolphins, we're just mostly putting a lot of teams on notice rather than being there and then just kind of being, let's just say maybe a lucky pick. It's like, no, this right here, us getting to the playoffs this year, is just putting a stamp just for our fans and just for our organization that this needs to be a consistent thing, that we need to get back to being a Miami Dolphins that is a playoff picture franchise. Because the last time the Miami Dolphins been in the playoffs was when we had Tannehill, and then we lost in that first round against the Steelers. But at the same time, we been there, but then it was such a huge gap going all the way back to Dan Marino. But we want to bring a new type of fresh scene and just a fresh look when it comes to Tua, when it comes to Waddle, Gesicki, Parker, and our other things. Because, we put a lot of teams, especially on notice last year when it came to our defense. Now having our offense there, building up a lot of different things, our draft picks, having Brian Flores there, we can be on the scene to be like, okay, there's a new look in the AFC, not just always the Raptors.
I agree with that 100%. And I do believe that the Dolphins can pull through, even though I think these last 2 games is going to be tough, because you're going up against a Tennessee team who's one of the top seeds. You're going up, of course, against the Patriots. You always know that game always goes down to the wire, that last game with you guys and the Patriots. So it's going to be very interesting. But I do think the Dolphins can still pull through and definitely, compete. Even based off of last year, they had a winning season. I mean, it wasn't like it's just they didn't make the playoffs because it was so tight last year. Like, there were so many teams that were at that same record. And, of course, certain teams won this game. Some certain teams didn't, which kind of, didn't benefit the Dolphins. But the Dolphins were 10-6. They were a good team. They were a good football team that was, on an upcline. Earlier this year, they started off really sluggish, really rough. It was very bad for the Dolphins. And then out of that bye week that they had, they went on a whole winning streak, and they're currently winning, I believe, against the Saints now. So it's really cool to see. And I think if the Dolphins win and they, maybe lose in the first round, you never know what can happen in the playoffs. But if they lose that first round, I think it's good momentum heading into next season. Exactly. You can always add more people. You can always shore up that offensive line and build around Tua, and definitely, create more magic. Because to me, when you look at the AFC, is it the NFC East, right? When you look at the AFC East, you have the Patriots, AFC. You have Buffalo, you have the Jets, and you have the Dolphins. That could be, in the future, I believe that can be one of the most competitive divisions, I think. You're starting to see the Bills creep. The Patriots are starting to, even though they lost to the Bills yesterday.
But it's so close.
You can see it. Start to go up.
Yeah.
Right.
You can see it, especially in the loss column. Everybody is like either 6 or 7 losses, and it's right there. That's why the AFC is so open. And, I just hated even before how the Deshaun Watson type of talks, it ruled off that whole first season, the first half of the season for us.
Yeah.
Just the talks of is Tua going to be leaving? Is, we getting Deshaun Watson and everything else? Things are not working out and everything else. And we always lose within 3 points, like 3 straight games. And then we ended up 1-7, and then we hit on this huge run after the Houston Texans game, and then the Baltimore Ravens game. I'm just saying, right now, this second half of the season, our team is getting better chemistry going,
Yeah.
and plus a lot of trust in our players and everything else that's like that. And at the end of the day, it's just all about earning that respect at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Now, you speak of those Baltimore Ravens. Let's go to the AFC North. Now, that whole
What you guys say about that?
division right there is so confusing. To me, like out of that whole division, I'm rooting for the Ravens because I genuinely do like the Ravens. And they lost to the Bengals yesterday, not in a very bad way. Joe Burrow had a very, very exceptional game against them. It was ridiculous. I think he threw for 400 or 500 yards.
500 yards.
Crazy number like that. 500. Yeah. And I think 4 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. It was just crazy. I think he was just sensational yesterday. I'll give him that. And I know for me, I'm not a Bengals fan. I do not like the Bengals like that. But my dad always raves about them. Oh, the Bengals, they're up and coming and all that. Me personally, a win is a win, yes, but they're playing against a third-string quarterback.
Exactly.
Yes. So it's like
without Lamar, without the backup, everybody's in protocol, injured. Look, of course he's gonna have a huge day, and
of course. But my biggest thing that I took yesterday, I watched the Kansas City and the Pittsburgh game yesterday. I saw clips of the Ravens and Bengals game. I have never seen the Ravens and Pittsburgh get bullied around like that on defense.
Right.
Have you
it's
seen that
so
before?
Weird to see, right? You would see.
I have never. I was completely shocked because Steelers is one of the biggest, best franchises in NFL history. They have a bunch of Hall of Famers. I mean, they're consistently always good, especially on defense.
And if they're losing, they're losing close. They're not losing by a huge margin as they're getting blowed out. Like Kansas City was just dog walking them through the whole game. And that same thing that went with the Bengals.
It was sad. I have never seen, and it's just, especially what the Steelers stand for, especially what the Ravens stand for. They're very tough, gritty teams. I mean, running the football, playing stout defense, good quarterback play. Like that's what those franchises stand for. And to see them being tossed around like that it's like the culture is being lost, especially in Pittsburgh. I feel like that culture, what that culture stands for, it's not it's not what I've never seen anything like that before. Ben was just not good yesterday. I watched that game. It was sad just seeing that. In the beginning you think, oh, this could be a game. Pittsburgh are coming in. They could come in and cause some issues for Kansas City. But what do you think, Jeremiah? Do you think Kansas City is just that good, or Pittsburgh is just that bad?
Well, when it comes to the Kansas City, I can say they kind of woke up a little bit, because at the beginning of the season,
for sure.
They were not it. Like you were seeing Patrick Mahomes throwing interception out of interception, trying to force passes in there. But right now, they kind of got it to their head like, okay, let us calm down and let us actually play.
They're dangerous
in some things. But also on another half, I think that it's more of the Steelers actually being worse as well, too. Because, they got Juju out, of course. And not to mention, Ben, he needs to go right now. Whatever Steelers need to do, they need to try to trade to get a higher draft.
He is, by the way, Jeremiah, he said he is retiring after this season.
Yes, because, of course, he's always going to be remembered, and, of course, a Hall of Fame quarterback for the Steelers, it without a question. But, of course, it's his time to go and everything else, and all the fans and everybody. And trying to make that last push for a playoff run right here is so tough to kind of get these type of losses as a franchise and plus as a fan looking at it, because you're so right there. They're right there within Baltimore. They're right there when it comes to Miami, the Browns and everybody. You have these short things right now, and for them, it's just very slim that they'll make the playoffs, which I really don't think they will.
Especially how they lost in that fashion yesterday against the Chiefs. Of course, we know the Chiefs, they turned the corner, like the defensively, offensively, they're clicking on all cylinders. So they're gonna be scared to deal with. But when you look at Pittsburgh, it's not like Pittsburgh doesn't have talent. I mean, they have TJ Watt. You have a lot of great players, and their receiving core is young and talented. It's not like they're just old. And then, of course, I think their O-line needs to be shored up. Because Najee Harris is a very good running back, and I saw him get very much nothing yesterday.
Exactly.
He broke for a couple, but I was really shocked. I'm like, this is crazy how the Pittsburgh look. They're getting outmanned, they're getting out hustled. It's just I've never seen Pittsburgh look like that. And even my parents watching football years before I was born, Pittsburgh never looked like that. Like that's just not what they stand for. So it's really sad, but in that division, it's so tight in the AFC. When you look at the AFC, it's like, well, there's a bunch of teams at 9-6. There's so many teams in that spot, or 7-7. It's going to go down to the wire. And I can't, when you see the Bills, like, okay, now the Chiefs, they're getting hot. Then you look at the Bills. I mean, the way the Bills just played against the Patriots, I mean, can they go compete and they look good? Then you look at the Colts. If Carson Wentz plays like that, it's gonna be.
It's so wide open, even when it comes to the playoffs. Am I sold all the way on the Bills? No, I'm not really too sold off of the Bills all the way. Is the Chiefs okay? Yes, but you already know how they be in the playoffs. They're used to that. They're used to that, going to everything and stretching that.
But what I'm saying is,
everybody else is just up for grabs to me.
I'm gonna say this though, if Josh Allen plays how he played yesterday, they're going to be a team to deal with. It's the same with the Colts. It's all about the quarterback play. If Carson Wentz and Josh Allen go in there and they play the games that they just played, both those teams are dangerous. I don't care what anyone says. They run the football really well. They have weapons. And if you look at it, Colts defense is not sorry at all. They're a very, very good defense, and they can get after the quarterback. So it's going to be a very interesting playoff. But that wraps up tonight's show. There's so much more going on, so much playoff talk, and there's a lot of things going on. But thank you, Jeremiah. It's always a pleasure talking about sports. We get to see you guys here on Jazz's First Impression Sports Talk on Mondays at 8:45. See you next week for more sports talk. Have a good night.